Hey guys, Curtis Alexander. Can macro ratios increase your metabolism? Is there an ideal macro ratio? I want to tackle that. So let's start first of all. What's important is for you, where are you coming from? What I mean by that is in my particular case, I did a a decade plus long stint of daily fasting, very low carb dieting, keto, carnivore, the whole bit. So where I'm coming from may be different than where you're coming from. So the introduction of different macros is going to change in that circumstance. And we'll jump into that. How aware are you of your body? Meaning, if you're craving sweets, that's your body trying to tell you something. If you're craving salts, that's your body trying to tell you something. Are you aware of those cues? And it's the fact that, hey, you're not a bad person because you want a cupcake. It's just your body trying to let you know maybe you're a little stressed out. Okay, and then adjustment. This is not a quick process for a lot of people. That's where I dropped the ball, where I caused a lot of problems, is because I went from literally 20 to 30 grams of carbs a day, sometimes less, up to 300 literally overnight. Caused a ton of weight gain because I was insulin resistant. And yes, you can become insulin resistant without carbs. It's a very common thing that happens when you do it long enough. So there's some ground rules we have to set. Now, what would be the recommended? First of all, there is no ideal ratio. There's some ranges that we want to kind of shoot for, and it's going to take time to get there. But I would start with your protein. I did a video on protein intake. I would shoot for 0.62 to zero point 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're obese, go for ideal body weight, not your current body weight, or you're going to have to shovel in a bunch of protein, and that's not going to be fun. So you don't have to hit a gram per pound of body weight. Does it help with weight loss? It does, because there's the thermic effect of food. But as far as what your body needs for developing muscle, for your mitochondria, some of these other things that protein is critical for, this range will get you there. Okay. I haven't seen any scientific evidence outside of that to suggest anything different. If they do, I'll be the first to change that. Carbs, what we want to eventually shoot for is whatever your protein number ends up being. Say it's 150 grams, we would want our carbs to be double that. So maybe 300 grams of carbs. When you're coming from a very low carb environment, that's a lot of carbs. And again, this is a range. You don't have to hit 2 to 1. And when you're starting out, if you're coming from a low carb environment, you have to do this extremely slow. Maybe 10 grams of carbs, 10 to 20 grams of carbs increase per week. So if 1 week I was 30 grams of carbs, next week I'll shoot for 40 to 50, see how I do. Make sure I'm adjusting well, then just keep notching it up. Don't make a big jump. And if you find that you don't feel as well on a 2 to 1 carb to protein ratio, you don't have to do it. But you do want carbs. You do want ample carbs. Ample meaning I would never go less than 100. But that's what I'm saying. There is no perfect ratio, but there's some general guidelines, and that would be it. Do not be afraid if you can't hit the 2 to 1. And then I would just fill in the rest with your fats, which is going to probably give you 20 to 30% of your diet and fats. We want saturated fat sources, no polyunsaturated fat sources. So we're looking at butter, ghee, coconut oil. If it's good quality olive oil, you can use that. So again, no perfect ratio. Second part of the question is, what carbs would I recommend? Particularly if you're starting out, you want to go with very simple carbohydrates, meaning ripe fruits is perfect. For example, you can have a banana. A banana that's not ripe is very high in starch. As it ripens and it gets black and soft, that starch content drops way down. It's converted to simple sugars. That's what I mean by ripe fruits. Real fruit juice is fine. Local honey, local raw honey, maple syrup. Those are all simple ones. If you tolerate roots, meaning potato, squash, sort of those things, if you tolerate those things, great. They're awesome things to put in. You may have to wait a little bit. Again, if you're coming from that low carb environment, you may have to wait a little bit, but it's a good one. Cooked veggies, again, that's a tolerance thing. I don't enjoy veggies that much. I don't tolerate them raw really at all. So, and they're not needed. If you don't enjoy veggies, they're not necessarily needed. I know that's hearsay, but you can get all your micronutrient needs outside of veggies. However, if you enjoy them, have at it. I would make sure they're well cooked though. And something like a homemade sourdough, I really enjoy now. I try to get glyphosate free dough, or excuse me, flour to make the dough. But, you know, that's something you could do. But I'd start out with the simple ones. A couple of pointers, you guys, as you're doing this, okay? You don't have to match anyone else. I know people that do very well on 50 to 60% of their macros as carbohydrates. That's a little high for me, but I didn't do well when I was down to extremely low levels of carbohydrates. So if you're at 35% carbohydrates and you've experimented and you're like, this is a good spot for me, great. That's for you. You don't have to match anybody else's diet. You are a unique individual, so am I. You don't have to be someone else. And the other thing I have to stress, this is the thing I missed in the beginning. I know I mentioned it earlier. It's a journey. Okay. It's not going to be fast. It's probably taken you a while to get where you are at, and you're not happy with it and you're not doing well. It is not going to be an overnight process. It's taken me 2 to 3 years now to get to this point. I could have got there much quicker had I known some of these things that I talk about in my other videos, but, and I'd encourage you to go check out some of those nutritional videos. But, you know, so no perfect macro ratio, you guys. I just want to stress that. Make sure you go to curtis-alexander.com. I talk a lot more about this on my email list. There's a free checklist for you there as well. So hope this was helpful, you guys. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.